Hey everyone, this is Kevin KK6DCT. Welcome to our club meeting for April the 5th. Unfortunately, at the start of this meeting, we had a Zoom client issue while we were recording, and we've lost about 5 or 10 minutes of the club business and intro sections. So we're going to pick this up a couple of minutes into Marty Gunn K9MEG's intro on our field day preparation and plans for this year, and then we'll continue into the full recording of the intro to Packet Radio, which is complete and goes all the way through until the end. So sorry about that for the technical issues, but hopefully you enjoy this recording of our club meeting for this month. Okay, is it back?
Okay, so field day is a combination open house and a contest. And when guests show up for our open house, they're also allowed to operate and they have a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. I didn't know my radio worked so well until I hooked it up to Tom's antenna. And I think the farthest contact I made was Maryland. And that's doing pretty good for me. So it's a tremendous event. We highly encourage you to participate. For those of you who want to participate, we have some sign-in sheets or sign-up sheets on our n6na.org website. So if you go to the n6na.org website, along the left-hand side is a navigation pane, and in there is Field Day. Click on Field Day. It'll tell you a little bit about this year's Field Day, and when you scroll down, you'll see 2 forms to fill in. One is a volunteer interest form. So if you want to come hang out with us at the VFW in Fair Oaks on June 25th and 26th, you can put down what you're interested in, what you would like to do. So depending on what mode you like to talk in, maybe you're a CW person, maybe you're an FT8 person, maybe you're a voice person, whatever interest, we have that covered. Also, we need help setting up Saturday morning and taking down late Sunday morning, early Sunday afternoon. So we need help making this field day happen. So I encourage you to go look at the volunteer sign-in sheet. And we also have an equipment sign-up sheet. So if you have any extra solar panels laying around your house that you're not using that weekend, maybe you'll let us borrow one so we can charge all our batteries. The way we do field day at the VFW is we do it using what they call backup power. So we're not plugged into the grid. So either generators or primarily, I think what we use are batteries, and we keep our batteries topped off with solar panels. To participate, the more people, the better. And I look forward to seeing you in June. And with that, we'll give it back to Kevin.
All right, thanks, Marty. All right, before we get started on our main topic tonight, any other items of interest or news items or any questions or anything?
It looks like Lance Lewis commented about bandpass filters. Lance, what did you mean?
Oh, sorry, Tom. That was just an idea for a homebrew thing. It seemed like kind of fun to build a bandpass filter as a homebrew project and do it before field day. That was in response to the question for homebrew.
Yeah.
Ideas.
Okay, that'd be a good idea. Yeah.
I know we've done that, I think, before, but it's probably been a while.
It's been a few years. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll put that on the list. All right, thanks. Okay, any other suggestions or any other announcements or anything?
Oh, I have an announcement, Kevin.
Yeah.
The field day event will coincide with the Western States Endurance Run. It's also a 24-hour event, and I won't be joining River City RCARCS because I'm stationed in one of the control centers for that endurance run. So maybe I'll do QSO with you from Duncan Peak. So it's coming up on the same day as the field day. That's my announcement.
Cool. Okay, sounds good. All right, let's move on to the main topic. How's my audio? I switched on to my headset.
Great.
All right,
Good.
sounds good. I think that's what crashed my Zoom. I plugged my headset in and it crashed. So not too good. All right, so tonight's topic is an intro to packet radio. And I try to cover as many things related to packet as I could. So it's kind of covering a whole range of things that are packet related, not really going into too much detail on any one particular thing, but hopefully to give you some ideas of like what you can do, what you need to get started, and how you configure and set up stuff. So some of the things we'll look at is talking about doing keyboard to keyboard QSOs using packet, personal mailboxes, BBSs, APRS, which is probably the main thing that most people use packet for, and also just touch slightly on Winlink as well. I think later in the year, I can't remember which month it is, but I think we've got a presenter talking on Winlink specifically. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about that other than mention what it is. So I have got a couple of things set up for a demo. So if anyone is set up and they can send APRS messages, if you send me a message at KK6DCT-7, I'll try and pick those up later. And that's with, I've got a 2-meter handy talkie. It's sitting on the windowsill over there with a headphone antenna just hanging in the window. And it's using a Mobi-linked TNC, which is a Bluetooth TNC. And it's connected to my tablet here. So I'll pick up those later if anyone sends any messages. All right, so just a quick high-level overview. What is packet radio? So it's a digital mode. It's mainly used for text message communication, for sending text messages. The transmit speeds are pretty slow. So if you compare to what dial-up modem used to be, on HF speeds are typically 300 baud. And then on VHF, UHF, they can range from 1200 to 9600 baud. So it's pretty slow, but it's used to support a lot of other modes as well, though. So I mentioned before, APRS uses packet, Winlink uses packet, or Winlink can use other modes as well, but it can be sent over packet. And then AX25 networking as well. You can set up links between computers over radio using packet. So a bit of history. So most of you, if you've been around for a while, you've probably heard of packet and you've probably used it at some point in the past, or you've come across it before. So it's been around since the late 70s. There was a club called the Vancouver Amateur Digital Communication Group. They put together the first all-in-one packet device. And then later on in the early 80s, another club, the Tucson Amateur Packet Radio Club, they built the first TNC as a kit. And in 83, they had their first kit. It was $350 at the time, apparently, which is pretty pricey. And then they had a second version of the kit they released, which was $250. And then I thought what was interesting, like this is before my time being involved in packet radio or the amateur radio hobby. But apparently what happened was this Tucson amateur packet radio group, they used their designs for this TNC kit to be produced for profit by other companies. So AEA and Heathkit, they both sold TNCs that were based on the first TNC1 design. Originally it was $350 for a kit or $400 as an assembled device, so pretty pricey. Cantronics, their KPC TNC was a smaller version of that first TNC1 design. And then later the TNC2 was sold by AEA, MFJ, DOSI, PACCOM. And by that time in the early 90s, the price had come down pretty much. So they were around $130 at the time. So this is probably the question most people are asking, like if they were using packet earlier and it was pretty busy, like before the internet became popular, but there's still a lot of packet usage around, and particularly in our area in the Sacramento Valley, on every Sunday, 8 o'clock, there's a packet net, which is still active every Sunday. And I've checked in a couple of times and there's always between like 10 or 20 people who check in on that net. And some people hang around and have a chat over packet afterwards. There's a lot of different packet nodes that are in our area as well, up on a lot of the surrounding hills and peaks. And the one that's up on Berryessa, that's easy if you connect to there from our area. You can easily get across into the Bay Area and all the way down into the South Bay from there. There's also some activity, or a couple of different frequencies that are used in our local area. 145.050 megahertz, that's where most of the activity seems to be. You also find some activity on 144.037. And then APRS, the standard frequency for that in North America is 144.390 megahertz. And if you tune in there, like even if you haven't got a TNC or if you're not set up and just listen, you'll hear almost constant activity on APRS on that frequency. So options for getting set up and getting going, like what do you need? So there's a couple of different options. You've got the hardware TNCs, which have been around for years. They still work fine. Even if you pick one up from eBay or at a swap meet or something, they still work fine. I've found that if you look around on eBay, like even though these things are 20 or 30 years old or whatever, they're still going for pretty high prices. So if you're shopping to pick one up used, take a look at what the prices are and make sure you do some shopping around to get one, because you could definitely pick one up for like under maybe like $50 or something if you shop around for a while. And I took a quick look on eBay earlier. There was a bunch going for some pretty high prices, so just make sure you shop around. The other alternative is with the software TNCs, like software sound modems. These are pretty easy to set up. Most of them are free. Some of them do cost a bit of money. You've got the UZ7HO. There's also this AGW Packet Engine Pro. I think this one has a trial period on it, and then it has a small price. And there's also Direwolf as well, which is probably the most full-featured of all the software packet options that you've got. It can be set up to do anything, including setting up iGates for APRS and all sorts of things. So if you want to get the quick and easy option to get started, maybe take a look at this UZ7HO, or if you get more into it, take a look at getting set up with Direwolf. So here's a few examples of what these things look like. Probably seen some of these before. The first one is the AEA PK232. This is currently sold by TimeWave, and it goes for about $600 new. So it does a lot more things than just packet. It does other digital modes as well, but you can use this for packet. And you've also got the Chemtronics KPC3. This is currently sold as well. It goes for about $250 new. There's also a few cheaper options. MFJ have this TNC-X for $179. And you can usually pick up these like used on eBay as well if you shop around. So they are currently sold new, or you can pick up some used ones if you shop around. You've also got Bionics have a few different models. There's the Tiny Track 4 for $85. They've also got some completely self-contained models as well that contain a transmitter, GPS, so that they're completely like self-contained trackers that you could use on APRS for like attaching to things like balloons for doing tracking, or putting in your car, or you've got a few different options there. The easiest hardware option that I've come across is this thing called a Mobilink D, or Mobilinked, not quite sure how they pronounce it, the TNC3. This goes for $125. Several months back, they had a couple of different models, and they started with one that was like a bare model, just wrapped in like heat shrink plastic. The current model, they now sell it like in a case. It's all packaged, nicely packaged, and it connects to your radio with a cable. They have options for all the common handy talkies and data ports. And the interesting thing with this is it connects to either an app on your phone or your tablet or a laptop over Bluetooth. So you've got a physical connection between this little thing, which is smaller than the size of a packet of cards. And I've seen pictures where people like put a rubber band and like tape it around their handy talkie, or put some Velcro on it and stick it on the back of their handy talkie, and then use it with software like APRS Droid on Android, which I'll show you in a bit. For the software sound modems, most are free. This Windows app, UZ7HO sound modem, You can download it from this website here. You've also got Direwolf that I mentioned before. This is available for all platforms, Windows, Linux, and Mac. And you can download it from this website, and there's installation instructions on there. The first one's pretty easy to install. You just download it and set up a couple of options, and it's ready to go. The Direwolf, I think they have some pre-built binaries that you can download, or you can download the whole thing from source and build it yourself. So if you want to run it on like a Raspberry Pi, you can download it from source, build it and install it, and get it all set up and ready to go. Commercial options, you've got this AGW packet engine, 30 days free shareware, or $49 after that. So not too expensive. So what do you need to get going? You have to have a radio of some description, either HF radio or VHF, UHF. If you're connecting to a laptop or your PC, you're going to have some kind of sound card interface. So I've got a Rig Blaster here that I use, or a USB signal link as well, works perfectly fine. And then either a phone or I keep having table here instead of tablet, a phone, a tablet, or a laptop or a desktop, anything where you can run the software side. So the quickest option is definitely this UZ7HO sound modem. If you go to the website, here's the link down here. You've got two things you want to download. The first is the sound modem itself. The version number keeps changing on here, so I think every time you go back, like sometimes there's a different version that you can pick up here. And then one other app that you'll run, which is this EasyTerm app, which is the terminal software that you run. They've got a few other things on here as well, like a chess app and a checkers app that you can run over Packet. But you just need two things really to get going, like the sound modem itself and EasyTerm. So what these look like when you start them up, this is the sound modem app. And then if you click into settings, you'll see this dialog pop up. And the only thing you really need to configure is the sound device that you're using. So on this laptop, I have my Rig Blaster. So I select it for the output and the input, same for both. And everything else I just left as defaults, didn't change anything else there. So that's pretty simple, just two things to pick in the options there. The next thing is this EasyTerm app. Same thing, pretty easy to set up. You just go into settings, you put in your call sign. You've also got the option to do a personal mailbox here. You can also configure a beacon and how often you want the beacon to get set up, and a path where you want the beacon to get repeated across. But we'll talk about this in a bit more detail in a minute. So pretty easy to get set up. So this is what it looks like when you're running it. On the right-hand side, the sound modem app is running, and there's a waterfall down here. You can see the signals like visually here, and then they get decoded over here on the right. On the left, I've got the EasyTerm app running, and to connect to another station, you press the connect button, you type in the nodes you want to connect to, press connect, and off you go, and that's it. So a couple of times I mentioned some things like these -1 or -2 or -5, these secondary station identifiers that are on the end of your call sign. So there's some recommended, like a standard recommended approach for like what these represent and what they're for. But I think most people follow something like this, but I've put in bold the ones that seem to be pretty common. Like a -0 is normally like your main primary station, and a -1 might be like one additional station. -5 seems to be used for like mobile devices, like something running on your phone. -7 seems to get used by people doing APRS or Packet with their handy talkies, like out being mobile. -10 you'll see. Mainly, I think people running Winlink gateways seem to use -10, and -15 for any other type of like Digipeater mobile station, other things. But they all have specific meanings. But I think there's some of these you'll see that seem to be more common than others. Definitely like a -1 or a -5 or a -10 that you'll see here and there. So here's a couple of different modes that you can use when you're operating with Packet. got connected mode, where you're exchanging messages between two connected stations. And you start this off, you do like a C to connect and then a call sign. And then after that point, when you're connected, everything that you type and the other station types, those messages are just going backwards and forwards between like you and that one other station. So you're operating in a connected mode, like two stations connected together. The interesting thing with Packet is that all the messages that are sent are either acknowledged or one of the station can request a retry. So the messages are all sent like with checksums, and there's reliable delivery of the messages. So things don't typically get lost. They either like don't arrive and the station asks for a retry, or they get successfully delivered and get acknowledged. So there's always a successful delivery of the message if it can actually make it. To get into a connected mode on most of the hardware TNCs, I think after you've entered the connected mode, like with a C and the call sign, then after that point, everything you type is going to be sent straight out as a packet to the other station. And then to get out and exit the mode, sometimes it's hard to, well, it's easy to get stuck in that mode and you can't get out. But if you Control C and then it's usually D to disconnect. This might be different depending on your TNC, but that's usually how you get out of it and how you disconnect from the mode. The other thing you'll see is packets are sent with this unproto mode, which is these are not acknowledged and there's no retries. They're just messages that are sent, and anyone that hears them will hear that message. So this is usually used for beacon transmissions. So if you're running like a personal mailbox or a Winlink gateway, you could use this to send out a beacon maybe 5 or 10 minutes so everyone knows that your station's there and they know that they can connect to you. Stations send in an ID packet or message broadcasts for some activity that's coming up. I've seen like some packets I sent where a club might be advertising that they have a meeting coming up at a particular time. So maybe every like hour on the day before the meeting, they send out a message as like a beacon transmission that just lets people know that there's an event coming up. All right, this converse mode on the hardware TNCs. If you, on the one that I have an AEA PK232. If you type in from the command prompt conv for converse or the full word converse, then that puts you in the mode where everything you type after that point gets sent out over the air. So if you've already set up an unproto path to send your packets over a path of digipeaters, everything you type after that point just gets sent straight out and will get picked up and sent along that path. Then you can Control C to exit out of that mode. So if you set up some software and you look at these packets that are being transmitted, what they actually look like. So if you're running Direwolf, you'll see stuff like this that appears on your screen. So on the first row, you've got some info about the audio levels. And if it's too high or too low, you get a warning here to either like increase the volume on your sound settings or decrease the volume. Next line down is the interesting part. The first call sign here is the originating station. Like, where did this packet come from? And then like what type of packet it is. This is a beacon packet. And then there's a text message that follows after it. So a couple more examples. This next one, this shows that this packet got passed on by a digipeater, in this case KBERR. And again, you've got the volume information up here. Next line down though, you can see something different. So this is where the packet came from originally, W6OAK. It was a beacon transmission. And then he's got set up a path of digipeaters. And the one that has the asterisk behind it is the one that you received this packet from. So KBER, this node here, picked up this transmission, this beacon transmission from W6OAK, and then retransmitted it. And I heard it being passed on from this station here. And we'll talk a bit more about this path that's configured here and what that means. And then at the end, you've got a text message again. So this is a beacon transmission by W6OAK, and he's running a personal mailbox there. So you can connect directly to W60AK and leave a message there. So the other interesting thing that I found is that if you search around about Packet online, there's a lot of people talking about setting stuff up on the Raspberry Pi. And the reason why I think these two are connected is because on Linux, you've got this AX25 network stack that Packet uses already built in. And there's a bunch of Packet apps that are already there that you can be used. You've got AX call to connect to another node. You've got Beacon to send out Beacon transmissions. You can run your own node software. All this stuff is like already there and included, or at least like pretty easy to install. I think a couple of these come from a package called AX25 apps, but it's pretty easy to install. And if you're setting something up to run like 24/7, it doesn't cost much to leave a Pi running in the background. So it's a pretty cheap option to leave something up if you want to run it. If you want to run it 24/7. There's a ton of guides about setting all this stuff up and configuring it. If you go to my website and just search for Packet, you see a whole bunch of articles that I've written over the past few years about configuring and setting up some of this stuff. So if you want more info, it's easy to go find and search online and find more info. Okay, so a few different uses of what you can use Packet for, and we'll walk through these like one at a time. So you can do the station-to-station QSOs. You can set up personal mailboxes, bulletin boards. We'll talk about digipeaters. Also talk about Packet via the International Space Station, and then look at APRS a bit, and then just mention Winlink and what is Winlink. All right, so the first one, to do like a station-to-station QSO, we've already mentioned this a couple of times before. You just type C to connect and the station ID. And then at that point, you connect to the other station, and everything that you type in on the keyboard just gets transmitted over the air to the other station. They pick it up, and everything that they type on their side then comes back to you. So everything is like a two-way conversation with the text messages going back and forwards between the two stations. This one is maybe slightly more interesting. If the other station you're trying to connect to is not available, if they're running hardware TNC, they might have built in what's called a personal mailbox, where you can connect to their node and you can store a message, and when they go and like log on to their personal mailbox, they'll see there's a message there. They can read it and then reply and send it back to you. Like maybe if you're running a mailbox too, they can connect to your mailbox and send a message back. There's other software options to do the same thing too. That EasyTerm software that I was looking at has a personal mailbox built in. So if you have the software up and running and you're connected to a radio, then someone can connect to your node and leave a message in your mailbox. What I have found is that if you get this set up and you leave it for a while, like over a day, you'll see within our area, just in the Sacramento Valley area, there's a whole ton of what seem to be active nodes that are sending beacons like every 15 minutes, 30 minutes or so. And for a while, I was like going through the list of all the nodes that I was hearing and connecting to their mailboxes and leaving a message. But I don't think I've ever had a reply from anyone on any of these mailboxes. And even if I connected like the next day or a week later and connected to their mailbox to see if they left a message, there really wasn't any activity there. So I think it's kind of an interesting idea, and people have these things set up, but maybe they're not using it just to get like random messages from people they're not expecting. Like maybe it'd be useful if you've regularly have a QSO with like one of your buddies and you want to send messages back and forwards. Maybe that's a cool idea to get it going, but I haven't had too much success with this. So anyone can connect to these personal mailboxes as well and leave a message or read the messages there. So it's definitely not something that's private either. And the way it normally works is you connect to the node, you can type L to list all the messages that are there. You can type LM to list the messages that are addressed to you, to your call sign. And Most of them have a help option. So if you're not sure like what the options are to list messages or save a message, send a message, you can usually type help and it will show you what the commands are. So it's usually pretty easy to use. So these things called nodes, these you can use them to expand your coverage, like to get your messages further than you can like just via just over the air by itself. So you can hop between the nodes, like connect to one and then connect to another one that that node could hear, and then you can connect to another one that that node could hear, and you could keep on going, and you could expand your range out and expand your coverage to connect to somewhere where normally you wouldn't be able to connect directly to it. So for example, from here in Davis, I can connect to K-Bear up on Berryessa Peak. And from there, I can connect down to a node called Woody, which I think is in Woodside, somewhere in the South Bay. And I definitely couldn't connect directly to that node like from here, because there's a bunch of hills in the way. But I can connect up to this node on top of the hills and then go down to the other side into the South Bay area. So digipeaters. So these also extend your range, but rather than doing it manually by connecting to a node and then like manually connecting to the next node and then doing it that way, you can set up like a path of nodes where you're asking Packet to like do the work for you, like send my message here, and then I want this next station to pick it up and retransmit it for me. And you can do this easily like with Connect as well. So I can connect to AG6QO, and you can specify a via here. I can say like connect to AG6QO via BER37, and it would do it for you and do those two hops to get there. And same thing, I can't directly connect to this node, but if I go via another intermediate node, I can definitely get there. So where are all these nodes? Like where can you get to from here? So I found on David Ranch's website, there's a link here, KN6CTD. He's got this map which shows you the rough location of where these nodes are. So from roundabout our area in the middle here, in Sacramento area, you've got this Berry or K-Bear node that's up here on the top of the hill. And if you connect from our area here up to here, you can definitely reach any of these other nodes down here. And you can make those hops. So you could go like from here to here and go up that way, going up to the north, or you could connect like from our area here up to Berryessa and go over the top of the hills and connect down to any of these other nodes down in the South Bay area. So if you're seeing these lists of like paths that people are using and you're wondering, well, where are they, or what would be a good path for me? I think this is a good map to look at. You can see like physically where are these nodes and like where would they get you to. Bulletin boards. So some stations have got some bulletin boards set up, and some of these have the option where they can mirror messages between other instances of the same message board software. So either syncing across the internet or syncing over the air. Some of them also have the option for doing like a live chat. So if two or more stations all connect to the same instance, you can do like a keyboard to keyboard chat via the BBS. Some of them also have some interactive apps set up and some text-based games. I spent some time setting up some things like just for fun, where I was setting up some text adventure games on a Packet node, and I had that running for a while. I don't have it running right now, but I think this is an interesting area where if this is your thing, you could spend some time and get some of this stuff set up. AG6QO-1 in Winters, he's running a bulletin board there. I've checked in a couple of times, like every now and again, and I think earlier he had a lot more features set up on there, and it seems right now it's just focused on messaging, and I know he also has a Winlink gateway that he runs on there as well. Beacons, we mentioned these briefly before, mainly to advertise like either the presence of your station or location of your station, or other services that you have running on your node. So if you've got a mailbox running and you want people to connect to it, you could advertise that via a beacon. Upcoming meetings like nets or swap meets. Most of the hardware TNCs have configuration to set up a beacon. On the Raspberry Pi, you've got this beacon command you can use, and you can you just type in beacon and your call sign. This is something to do in the configuration. I can't remember what that is, but then the beacon message that goes out, and by default this will send out this message every 30 minutes. So it could be something to advertise that, you know, I'm running like some bulletin board software or some upcoming event or something, and you can just configure it with this one line command, and it just sends out once every 30 minutes. All right. And photo packets, we talked about these before. This is how you configure this path. So it's U for unproto, and then CQ via, and then this path of stations. So what this is saying is, I want to send out this unacknowledged packet. I want it to go via the KBR node, and then this KBEF node, and then the Woody node. So I can get to and hear this first one, but I can't hear the other two directly, say. But if this one can hear this one, and if this one can hear this one, then you can have your message like bounce between them, and it can get extended out. This unproto mode, a lot of the software apps, they don't support this. I did find it's supported in most of the hardware TNCs. And then I think I mentioned, there's some software called Limpack as well. This runs on Linux, and it does have support for unproto. This is one of the only software packages I found that support this mode, in software. So it's easy to do on the hardware TNCs, and it takes a bit more looking around to find something that will support it on software. The other one, this UISS software, is primarily developed for doing packet via the space station, but its whole thing is to do with sending unproto packets. So you can configure a path to go via any like regular ground-based nodes and use it to send unproto packets, as well as doing packet via the space station, which I think I cover in a minute. Yeah, this one. So if you go online and find some tracking information for when the International Space Station comes over, they're running a packet digipeater on 145.285. If you set up your software or their UISS software, and you send your packets to, I think it's on the next slide. I think you send the packets to ARISS, and you hear them come back from RS0 ISS. And any other stations that have the software listening on that same frequency, they report them back to this website, ariss.net as well. So you can see for the pass that's just gone over, you can see other stations that heard your packet if it went up and got digipeated back down. And you can hear other stations also when they got heard and had their packets digipeated back down as well. So this is what this software looks like. There's a couple of configuration options at the top here. So I've just said I'm going to send my packet to CQ going via ARISS, and then you put in a text message here. So I've got CQ DE KK6DCT in my location and my grid, and then as you know that the station's coming over, if you start sending your packet, you just press this this text button here, and it'll keep on sending the message. You see, I sent it one time, and then I heard a packet come back, and then I sent again, and then this next line in red here, where you've got the star behind the asterisk beside the station name. This is the same as when you're receiving the packets via other nodes. So it's saying that I heard this packet from RS0 ISS, which is the digipeater on the space station, and it repeated my message back. So then I also heard a couple other stations on the same pass. I heard K6PKL and N7HQB, and it looks like they were trying to get into a conversation mode to send some messages. I sent a few more times, and I think on that one pass, I had one packet that came back, but it did get picked up on and displayed on the map on that website. If I go one back on this website here, so I could see that other people heard it when it got distributed back. So that was pretty cool. And then this is what that website looks like. It's pretty simple. If you go to ariss.net, you can see the location of other stations that got heard on the last pass, and including, I think, like where the space station is, like over time, I think, and it updates like every 5 or 10 minutes. This is probably the coolest QSO card I've ever received, QSL card. If you've had a successful packet get digipeated, they have a QSL card to recognize that you actually had a packet go up and get digipeated back down, and a pretty nice QSL card that you can receive. So this was a few years back. And if you're interested in getting a card to recognize that you managed to have a packet go all the way up and get repeated back down, there's some instructions on this website here that tell you like what information they need. You have to fill in about time and details of the packet exchange, and they'll send you a card. So APRS, Automatic Packet Reporting System. This is probably the most common current use for packet today. And there's probably a lot of things that we could talk about this, like how it's configured and how it's used. So we'll talk about a few just in brief. Mainly the primary use of this seems to be for position tracking of like things or people or cars, but it does get used for other information or status packets, weather stations, messaging between different stations. So you can send a text message via APRS and it will get received by the other APRS station. Same thing with all the other packets we've been talking about. Your messages get repeated by a digipeater to extend your range. So it's not just limited to like how far your RF could be heard, but it is limited for up to 3 hops to reduce the amount of traffic and chatter being retransmitted everywhere. There's also this concept called iGates, which bridge APRS packets with the internet. So this allows you to send an APRS message to any other currently active station that's running APRS. And the way this works is from your station over RF, it will get picked up by a local station that's running one of this iGate piece of software. It will carry your message across the internet to the nearest other iGate where the other station you're trying to connect to is, and then retransmit it back out on RF the other side. So as long as both stations are currently active, or the station you're trying to send a message to is currently active, you transmit a message from your station, gets picked up, goes across the internet, maybe to the other side of the world somewhere, and then gets retransmitted out, and then that other station can hear it on RF on their side. There's this thing called wide NN that you'll see with APRS messages and digipeaters. I've been doing some reading on this to try and understand what it is and what it means, but I think it's just a way to like constrain the number of hops that your messages are going to take. So the first number is how many hops do you want your message to take, like from node to expand your range. And then the last one is how many hops are currently remaining. So the last one gets decremented, it goes down. So a wide 1-1 means I want my message to be retransmitted once, and the last one is I've currently got 1 remaining. Or a wide 2-2 means I want my packet to be repeated twice, and I've currently got 2 remaining. And the last one gets decremented each time the message gets picked up and retransmitted. So what you'll see is if I send a message and I include in my path wide 2-2 and send a message like hello, the first digipeater that hears this, they'll pick it up and retransmit it. And they'll change the path that I included. So now it's wide 2-1. So it's been retransmitted once, and this counter goes down to 1. So the next second digipeater that hears it, they'll pick it up and they'll retransmit. And now it gets modified down to wide 2, and the -1, which was previously the -2, is now gone. And I've had my 2 hops. So my message got picked up once, retransmitted, picked up again, retransmitted, and that's the end of it, and it stops. And the purpose of this, I think, is just to limit the amount of chatter that's being transmitted between the nodes. So without this approach, you could have things like being retransmitted like again and again and again between nodes. It'll just be a constant noise of packets going backs and forwards everywhere. So I think it's just an attempt to try and make things more manageable and make sure things are not being retransmitted constantly everywhere and just creating a lot of noise. So this is what APRS for tracking looks like. You can go to this website, aprs.fi, and if you look at our local area, you could see a bunch of nodes that are active, all these symbols here, and these symbols all have a different meaning. So you can go off in the help over here, and you can like find out what all these things mean. So it's also a way where you could find out like where things are, like stations. If you're looking for a Winlink gateway, for example, this W symbol, there's one here which is quite near to me in Davis. So there's one over here in Winters. We also can see Jojo's Winlink station over here as well. So it could be useful to find out like where stations are to you if you're trying to find like a nearby gateway to get to. Or it could be for tracking the location of someone with a APRS tracker in their car, say. So there's a lot of different things you could do with this that could be interesting. The other thing is that there's some APRS services or bots where you can send a message to one of these service names, and there's a few that I found just by searching around. There's this one called MSSGTE, where if you send a message to SMSGTE at a particular phone number, then the service will send your message out to that phone number, and whoever's phone number that is will receive your text message. And if they reply, I think it actually works, so the message comes back to you as an APRS message as well. So if you're out and maybe you're out of the range of cell service somewhere, but you can still get to a nearest someone running the station, they can hear you. You could use this to get a message to someone. There's also a couple of different weather forecast services. So if you send a message to WXBot, and you can, in the message in the text area of the message, you can put like a city name and state, or tomorrow or Thursday or Friday, and you'll get a message come back and give you a weather forecast. Another one, you can send emails via APRS as well. Similar thing. So if you send a message to email is the name of the service, and in the message text, you put the email address and then a line of text to the message. This service will send out an email to this recipient here. I don't think this one allows you to reply. I think that's the only drawback of this one. So you can send a one-way email message over radio using the APRS, using this one, but I don't think you can reply. Okay, what else have I got? So some different apps for using with APRS. I've got one started up in the background here. There's one called Yak. I think this, yet another APRS client. So if I bring this up, let's see. I have to minimize this. Oh. Actually, I can walk through some of the config first, and then I'll show you it running. So you start this app up, go through the configuration options. There's a couple of different ways you can configure this. It could be connected to packet software, either a physical TNC you have connected, or it could be with a software sound modem, but you can also connect it to another computer. So I was playing around with this. I had the software running on my laptop downstairs, but upstairs in my office, I had Direwolf running on a Raspberry Pi. And so that was connected to my radio. And so sitting downstairs, I was playing around with this software connected like over my radio into the air. My radio is actually physically upstairs. I wasn't actually near my radio when I was playing around with this. So that's interesting. You can also set it up to connect over the internet as well. So the same way that those iGates used to send messages backs and forwards between different nodes across the internet, you've got an option in here where you can connect it to APOS IS, and it connects to an APOS node on the internet. So you can send and receive messages and see the local traffic like that as well. This is what it looks like sending a message. So down here on the bottom, I'm sending a message to WXBot, and I just included my town and state, Davis, CA, and then send a message, and then I get a message come back from WXBot and told me whenever I did this a couple of weeks ago, and you get a weather forecast come back. Here is an example, sending some emails to myself. So I did this one here, I think, yeah, this row here, third one down. So sender was me, send into email address and my message, and that gets sent out. And then over in my Google inbox, I got a message like via email. So it went like from my station over RF, went somewhere across the internet, maybe to wherever this service is running. It sent out an email for me, and I received it as a regular email. Another one I thought was interesting was to find a nearest repeater. So maybe if you're traveling and you don't know what the nearest 2 meter repeater is, the third line down here, you can see I sent a message to repeat, and in the text I said nearest 2 meter repeater, and then a few seconds later got a message come back, and it tells me here's the frequency and where, how far away this repeater is. So that was pretty interesting. I was going to show doing a Winlink demo, but as I mentioned earlier, we've got a topic coming up in a couple of months where someone's going to spend the whole session talking about Winlink, so I won't go into that too much detail. I did test it out with Jojo. He's got his Winlink station running, so I connected from my station over to Jojo, sent some emails using Winlink. So that's pretty cool. All right, let me just show you, I think running in the background here, I've got, yeah, here's that YAAC app that's running. And you've got like a map, and I could see all these stations that are currently reporting some location information or details about what they're running. You can click on these, I think, and it shows some more information. Some of them have, there's some weather stations around here somewhere. I think I can't see those right now. But yeah, so you can visually see what's going on around you, like where all these stations are, what's going on. The other thing I talked about was if I stop my share, if you go back onto the camera. So on my tablet here, I've got some software. This is, yeah, I don't know how well this is going to work, like up against the camera. I probably should have worked out a way to share screen on this. But this is APRS Droid running on a tablet, and it's connected to my 2 meter handy tour key and that Mobilink Bluetooth TNC. So that's across the room, sitting on the windowsill over there. So this is connected like from here on my tablet over Bluetooth to the TNC, and then over the air. So all these stations are their positions here. So you can see all those little icons that's similar to the other map that I was looking at on my screen. So they're all stations I've received like locally in the last couple of hours. And then I mentioned at the beginning, if anyone was going to send a message, we could show that running as well. So let me see if I received any messages or not. I don't think so, but yeah. But in the software here, you can go into the messages option, and you've got like an inbox there of messages you received. So I can send a message to another station, and then it'll go across the air, either get picked up by that station if they can hear me directly, or get digibeated, or get picked up by an iGate and sent over the internet. So you got that option to do messaging between stations using that as well. So I think the option of having this app like not actually physically connected to my radio, but it's still going over the air over RF is a pretty cool feature, because I haven't seen how far I can get with this over Bluetooth, but I think I could probably at least walk around my house and maybe go out to the yard and still be using this and still be connected to my radio at the same time. So at this point, it is going over the air. It's not using the internet. It's just a Bluetooth connection from here from my tablet going across to my handy talkie. All right. I think that's all the topics I really wanted to cover. Do we have any questions? I think there might have been some questions in the chat window. Let's see. Does anyone have any questions, or if we got time, do you want to see a demo? I could bring up some client software and show a demo connecting to a node, if that'd be interesting.
I was curious about whether there was a message, a maximum message length. I mean, like Twitter has its character. Yeah. So was there a limit on the message size?
There is, yeah. I don't know what it is, but it's not too long. But it's probably less than like 255 characters or something like that. It's pretty short. Yeah.
Okay,
Jojo,
but-
do you know what it is? Do you know what that maximum length is? I think you're still on mute.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's pretty short. It's about like 250 characters or something like that.
Yeah, I think that only applies to the APRS messaging, because on regular packet, you can send a much larger message, of course,
That's
on
true.
regular packet radio.
Yeah.
I
So-
can give a little bit of history about packet radio. I have one of my original TNCs here that I bought back in 1990. This is the PACCOM handy packet. You see it's the size of an HT. It's got it's self-contained nickel cadmium battery, and the connector on the back there is a DB9. This came out before we had USB connectors, and so this went to your radio, to your computer. The computer I had was a Toshiba T1000, which was an MS-DOS computer. That was before Windows. And then the cable here, plugged here, went into your radio. And you have, I made up these different cables. One of these plugs into my FT60. The other one plugs into my FT8800. And then I have another one that plugs into a Baofeng type. It just plugs into the microphone and the PTT sockets there. And it's, when we use this, most people didn't even have broadband in their houses. The highest speed modem most people had was, if they were lucky, 2400 baud dial-up. So it was the way you could get messages across on this using the amateur radio packet system was as dependable, if not more, than what you could try to send on email through dial-up. So I would carry this with me when I went traveling, and an HT. I could go to a hotel room because they had no Wi-Fi in the rooms. There was no access to internet in the rooms. I'd set this up with a little antenna in the hotel window, and I had access to the world. I could send messages all around the world using packet radio. So this was 32 years ago, and the protocol and this system is still active today, and it is very much dependent on for MCOM and for APRS. So it is very applicable today and very relevant.
Thanks, Carol. Does anyone remember what month do we have the Winlink presentation? I can't remember what month it was, but we've got that on the calendar, right?
I don't see it on our website. Let's.
We should follow up on that. I thought it was definitely on the calendar for a future meeting.
I'm
Right,
looking
we'll
right
follow
now
up.
to see, let's see, Winlink. No, I don't see it yet on the calendar.
Okay, all right, we'll check.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments from anyone?
Jojo chatted that APRS's maximum characters are 67 characters.
Yeah, that's pretty short. Thanks, Jojo. Going back through the messages
I
as
have
well,
a
I think.
question.
Oh, yeah, sure. Go on.
Yeah, I'm curious. I have a lot of gear that my dad had, like Signal Link and a number of different, I assume, TNCs. How do you know what can be used in this day and age? I have a Mac and I have a, no, I don't have any Windows computers anymore. So what do you recommend as far as what hardware do we need to get this all up and running?
The problem with the older ones, like the one that Carol was showing, was that the physical connector is an RS-232 type connector, either DB9 or DB25, and finding something that will connect to that, to connect to a modern PC, is probably a bit more difficult. So yeah, I have one on my desk here. I have this here is a USB serial adapter.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so on one end, the USB end will plug into my computer, like any modern computer, but this end is like a DB9 connector. So you can use this to connect to like one of those old devices, like with a proper serial connection. What I found with these though is you're typically trying to like work out whether it's like a straight through connection or a crossover connection, and it gets a bit weird and complicated, and you end up with this, and then another adapter like this, and then another adapter like this. It starts getting a bit crazy. And usually like you connect it like just straight through and then it doesn't work, and then you're scratching your head trying to work out why it doesn't work, because there's different types of serial connections and it's a bit tricky. I think the let me bring it over. Let me just go and step over there and bring it over. The easiest option, I think, is that Mobilink thing, because it's so easy to connect. Let me just go and grab it. If I show you this one, I had to disconnect it from my antenna, but that's my handy talkie, and it's connected with a cable into the radio. This tiny box, that's the TNC there. And there's no other connections from this to my computer. This is using Bluetooth. So with those two together, and then I've got a Bluetooth connection on my tablet or my laptop or my desktop, I think that's probably the easiest option. And this little box is about 120 bucks. They used to be cheaper when they came without the box, but I think this is the easiest option. And they sell all the cables for all the popular radios as well. So this is pretty easy.
That's not a Raspberry Pi though, is it?
No, it's called a Mobilink.
Oh, okay. Mobilink.
Yeah.
Yes,
In the
Kevin,
chat.
I have the same setup.
Yeah,
I have
there you go. Yeah.
Mobilink TNC, Kenwood 2-meter. It's just an analog 2-meter radio.
Okay.
And then I connect this to an external antenna. And this is my Android device. This Android can do APRS as well as Winlink for Android. And I learned that when I joined the NorCal Winlink net, somebody's using Winlink for Android. So it works.
Oh.
And it's the simplest setup I have. And it's portable too. I can use it as an iGate because this one has internet connection. So APRS signals received by this 2-meter radio goes to this TNC, and then by Bluetooth goes to the cell phone connected to the internet. So that's how I can use it.
And how long did it take you to get it set up? About 5 minutes, right?
More than that. I'm not as techy as you are.
Okay, all right. But I think it'd be easier than the old hardware TNCs with the serial connections. I think
A lot easier.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah. You can get them running and they probably still work fine. But yeah, trying to get them connected and actually working takes a bunch of time.
Okay, thank you.
And this is my hardworking signaling. My very first TNC connected to a Windows 10 laptop. So it's good for Winlink packet and Vara. I disassembled it temporarily. I'm using a Contronics KPC3 Plus.
Okay, yeah, I have a signal link somewhere. I'm not sure where it is. I've been looking for it, but I did find something that has the R232 connector.
Okay, yeah. So then you'll need something like that adapter to
Right.
connect it.
Okay,
Unless you've got an older laptop that has a serial connection, but none of them have had those for years at this point.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, these serial adapter things, I think these are like 10 or $15 on Amazon.
I'm sure I have some. I'm sure.
Yeah, right. In the box of cables.
Right, exactly.
Yep. Cool. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, thanks everyone. Hopefully that was interesting. And I think any one of those topics we could probably go into in a lot more detail. So maybe if there's more interest specifically in just one of those areas, we could spend more time on a future session and go into more detail. But hopefully that was like a good taster, a good intro, and maybe got a few people interested. So yeah, hopefully that was interesting.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, thank you.
Question, what are the frequencies that that are most commonly used for packet around here?
Let me get back to my slides. I had this will be in the YouTube recording as well, so you can go back. But I think I have a slide. Let's see. Let me go forward. Here you go. So 145.050. I think this is the most popular one in our area. There's some traffic on 144.037 as well. In the Bay Area, I think they use a couple of different frequencies more than what we use here. I think these two together are the most common ones. And then all of the APRS activity is all on that one standard frequency. This is the same for all of North America, I think, 144.390 megahertz. So these three together.
Yeah.
Jojo, your Winlink station's on a different frequency, right?
Yes, Greg KG6SJT and their team recommended that I use one for 5630. I think they're allocating the frequencies by areas. And I have a neighbor on 145050. They don't want me using that.
Ah, okay. So that was deliberate then, to get people spaced out a bit.
From my understanding, yes.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, these three.
And we have a weekly net.
Yeah, go on.
Yes, it's the NorCal Winlink net every Thursday night. There's more than 40 stations, I think, that checks in, and there's a Winlink net control that rotates.
And how does that work with the emails? Does everyone send an email at a particular time, or is it over like a period of time?
It's always a 1 week cycle. So every Thursday night, the net control summarizes those who checked in the previous week, and then everybody starts sending again. And then the net control compiles and shows who reached who and how many times or how many different paths that station used. So it's interesting. I can add you to the NorCal Winlink net, and you'll be part of the Winlink listserv or email list.
Okay, yeah,
like that.
that'd be interesting. Yeah. I saw one of the emails that you forwarded, which I think was the summary of one of those sessions. And what was interesting, it seemed like some stations checked in multiple times on lots of different frequencies. So they did VHF packet, and then they did HF packet across multiple bands as well. Yeah. Yeah, so they managed to do Winlink over like, on 20 meters, 15 meters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting, I thought. So they did like multiple paths and multiple bands.
Yes, that's the purpose of the exercise. And I learned a lot just by joining that Winlink net.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to give that a go.
Yeah.
Right,
The APRS thing's pretty cool too, because when we took some of our bike trips on our motorcycle, we went cross country, and probably the one that had the most to show for it was when we went to Estes Park, but we rode there and came back, and it showed everywhere that you could pull it up on the internet, and there was a map of everywhere we'd been anytime we were out on the bike. It was really cool. And that, I guess it turns out that there's like computers all over the place that hand it on. So it sort of does I guess like the Winlink kind of thing behind the scenes. So it's using computers to make the network, but it's using radio for all of its tracking. And it was really funny because we stopped for lunch and George Polis was watching our trip. And when we stopped for lunch, I got a text message and was, "Are you okay? You're not moving." So kind of like, people with the iPhones that watch each other's whereabouts. It was kind of cool. But so it was an interesting application of ham radio.
that's cool.
Yeah.
I can see that could be a pro and a con, because if you go through an area where there's no one picking you up, you would just disappear from the map for a while. So if someone's watching the map to track you and they see you disappear, they might be like, "Oh no."
Panic time.
Yeah,
Yep.
where have you
Panic
gone?
time.
And then an hour later you reappear on the map again.
Yeah. But at least it was nice knowing that somebody was paying attention. It's like,
Right.
oh, somebody cares. But
That's good.
If I may mention, I was at the HRO store earlier, and then Ken, our newsletter editor, came in, and then I just remembered, because his license plate is his call sign KE6RMN. "Hey Ken, I remember I saw your APRS beacon one time," and then he described to me that it's a full-time APRS beacon. Whenever he turns on the ignition of the car, it starts beaconing. So
really?
interestingly, I think somebody called him, "Hey, are you going to San Francisco? Can we meet?" So all the hams can see
That's
you
funny.
if you are beaconing your APRS station, and
Right.
it's helpful for hams just to find out
Yep.
who's moving or where you are.
Yeah.
I've tracked Ken all the way back to Iowa on that APRS when he's taken off on trips.
Kind of cool.
That's cool. Yeah. Wow.
Well, and it always leaves that option that you can do the messaging part of it if you really did get into a pickle. So it's a nice system.
Yeah, I asked him that. He said, "Well, I can see that a message pops up, but I don't really pay attention because I'm driving."
Right.
So
Yeah.
Jojo, when you were on the ham track, you were using APRS for people to track you on the train?
Yes. In fact, I have APRS.Fi in my phone, and I have software modem here. There's a minimal subscription to use the phone as an APRS beacon. That's how it can be as real time as possible, because I've tested APRS via my Yaesu FT3D. There's a big lag on the reporting. So when I use my iPhone, we're on track and we're reporting real time as to where we are.
Wow. Yeah.
I took a couple of screenshots when I saw you was moving on that trip, and I was going to include them in my presentation, but I think I forgot to include them in there. But yeah, I took a couple of screenshots. I could see you moving across the map.
Yes, and
Cool.
the club was happy, the Sierra Foothills, because they can track us, and I was the only one able to beacon an APRS station.
Wow.
Neat. It's really neat stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun, for people who need that sort of thing. I was doing that for a while, but I kind of got weirded thinking that people know when I'm away from home if I have that thing on all the time. So there may be some questions about security. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's still nice that if you do take a longer trip and you can clue people in, they might, watch your back so that, like, if you did have a problem, they'd wonder what was going on and say, are you okay? So
I think most of the APRS apps as well, the ones that you run on your phone or your tablet, like the APRS.fi or the APRS Droid, they have an option where you can like add a bit of like randomness to your location as well. So if you're looking for someone to know like exactly where you are, you wouldn't use that feature. But if you're trying to not make it obvious that you're in some very specific location, you can turn on that option, and it makes it ambiguity feature. Yeah, so you can turn that on, and you'll appear on the map, but not exactly where you actually are.
Oh, you're in Kansas, but not necessarily Kansas City.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
pick a cornfield, any cornfield.
That's right. Yeah, I think if you look at the map and you find me there, I'm somewhere in Davis, but I'm not actually in that location. But I'm somewhere in Davis.
Yeah, nearby. Close.
Yeah. So if I appear like I'm sitting in the middle of a field, I'm probably not in the middle of a field.
Yeah.
It's the same with Winlink icons. I'm more than 300 feet off from where I'm located. So if you see KN6HTD10, that's across the Stockton Boulevard area.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. But yeah, that is something to keep in mind, that maybe for some security reason or just personal reasons, you don't want to be showing up exactly where you are.
Yeah.
And then they see your car parked with your call sign.
Yeah.
Well, if they're that interested, they're probably following you. Never mind the APRS. But yeah. It was nice seeing Kayla on here. I was looking forward to seeing her at the next board meeting.
Hi, I'm in the kitchen whipping up something. So
that's okay.
When is the next board meeting? I thought it was like
it's always the fourth Tuesday of the month.
Oh, okay.
And that so. And then you've missed a few. I think you weren't sure when.
I want to make sure it's not in conflict with North Hills. Okay.
And
all right, I will do it this year.
Okay. Yeah, this month. Yeah. See you in a few weeks. But I thought I might mention that I haven't seen your smiling face, and must have been a reason.
Okay. Well, I will definitely. I'll write it in my calendar. That way I won't forget. Okay. Good to see you. Good to see everybody. Okay. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, Kayla. All right.
There's a question from membership about in-person meeting. I don't know how to answer that. It's still up in the air.
Well, we do know that our normal meeting location is not available still. We're looking at other locations.
But it is a question that's come up. So the board has been discussing it, and Phil has been looking into some alternative locations. So we're trying to track down somewhere that's going to be available. So yeah, we've been looking into it. Any more questions in the chat that we didn't get to? I think we covered everything.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. If you got any questions, reach out to me. Send me an APRS message. Maybe I'll pick it up. Or the recording will be up on YouTube probably by tomorrow morning. So, all right. So if there's not any more comments or questions or anything, we can wrap it up for the evening.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
All right. Sounds good.
Nice seeing everybody.
All right. Thanks, everyone. All right, have a good evening. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Good night.